This is Neat and Mixed from Hops and Spirits.
We'll see if the third time is truly the charm for me and I can get through an intro without screwing it up. I might have just done the announcer jinx to myself. We will find out. But we have a fun flight night for you. We are heading just down the road from Lexington, from where Brandon and I are based, to Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, as we welcome in the founder, and I believe you call yourself the Wannabe Distiller? We're welcoming Greg Keeley from Lawrenceburg Bourbon.
Welcome. We're the Wannabe Distiller for about 5 years. I can't get rid of it. I'm stuck with it nowadays. And the good thing about that is people just assume you have no idea, which is perfect, which I actually don't. But, so that works out well.
Not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what we're doing. We're just rolling with it. We just see what happens.
Right. See what happens.
Yeah.
And as we get into this, we'll get a little bit more into your background, because you might notice Greg might has a little bit of an accent that's not native to Kentucky, I don't think. We'll get into that, but I say we just hop into this first pour, since we got 4 ahead of us, and let's talk about this Kentucky straight bourbon that you got that's 4 years old.
All right. So this is one I wasn't really on my radar to make. The majority of our whiskey, except for our breakfast bourbon, as we call it, is cask strength or single barrel cask strength or cask strength. This one's our only proofed whiskey. It's a high corn. I think it runs in at about 86% corn, which is not something we do very much either. Everything else we do is really rye forward. We sit at about 21 to 23, 24% rye generally. We made this. My wife Katie, who is a partner in the distillery with me, and kind of runs things while I just sit up the back and play with whiskey barrels. She was very much of she doesn't drink whiskey straight, bourbon straight, but she loves a good cocktail. And all of our whiskeys were 115, 120, 124 proof. And, Katie was, we were having discussions, let's say, for about 6 months about proofing down one of our whiskeys. And I was against it the whole time. Until we opened these guys up, and they came out of the barrel about 139 to 141 proof, and sometimes that can be fine, but these were hot they were really hot. Yeah. So what we did, we proofed it down to 100, and I didn't care for it. It was like a watered down version of what it was when it came out of the barrel. We then did it to 86. Blue Label Old Forester and all that sort of thing. That was sort of what we were shooting at. But it literally tasted like a Blue Label Old Forester or a Yellow Label Four Roses or whatever. And then right at the end, Katie was like, well, why don't you just Basil Hayden this bitch and see what happens? And so we cut it down to 80, and blow me down if it didn't work. And, my whole thing with this was we were only going to produce this lower proof whiskey, a proof down whiskey, if it tasted like bourbon. And if it would stand up in a cocktail, or you could sit on the porch and drink it with an ice cube in it. Or a Coke if you want, I don't give a shit. Right on. I think we pulled that off, and it's a 80 proof bourbon. I really like this whiskey now. And in the big box stores like your Liquor Barns and Kroger's and things, this is our biggest selling product. And Katie suggested it, and I hear about it literally every day. Every day. Sometimes before I even get out of bed.
Remember when I told you this great idea?
Oh, no, it's more like, how's the breakfast bourbon selling today? I'm like, it's really good. So it's even better when we get, the PO from Liquor Barn or whatever, and it's, 60% for the breakfast, our orange label breakfast bourbon, and yeah, I'll never live that one down. But I'm glad she came up with the idea.
It's let you continue to tinker in the back, and this is a nice intro. I feel like for probably y'all to have something that's very approachable when people see that 80 proof. Because this wasn't what I was expecting at 80 proof.
No, it worked. Brandon, I'd be very interested to see what you think, what you thought.
I think it's it's extremely approachable, especially for some people that's new getting into bourbon, because I know it can be very overwhelming. A lot of people don't really know where to start. They don't know whether they should start with something that's 90 proof, 100 proof, or if they just go straight barrel proof. But I think you hit this one right. This is perfect. I mean, this doesn't taste. It's got a lot more flavor and it's got a lot more complexity than what 80 proof whiskey would normally be. So I think it's really good. Like I said, I could sit out on the porch, drink it with an ice cube, drink it neat. You could put it, this would be really, really good in an old fashioned. Just something that's just simple and it's got a lot of flavor to it. I'm really shocked, actually. Well done.
I think part of our rationale with this, and part of when we agreed, we worked out we could do it, was that I didn't want to have to do a low proof or a proof down whiskey or bourbon that we had to finish or make it taste like marshmallows or make it taste like honey or make it taste like gooseberries or whatever. We just had zero interest in doing that. And if this had not proofed the way it did, we wouldn't have put it to the market, because we're just not going to finish stuff like this. If it doesn't stand up, it doesn't stand up.
Right.
No, and
I like that.
Yeah, and
the other thing.
I'll go for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just the other thing I was just going to say was the other thing about our breakfast bourbon is that it's literally only 5 barrels. So how we're able to get some consistency is, we play around with the 5 barrels we'll put into each batch. So, 5 barrels actually is very small batch. But, we can find a couple of the ones that are a bit spicier, a couple of the ones that are a bit more mellow, and you put them together and it works. So that's what we've done with this. So it is a very small batch bourbon, proof down, and, touch wood, it continues to be, keep this sort of profile.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry I cut you off before, Jonathan.
Oh, no, you're good, because that leads into probably what I was thinking because of that small batch. I was thinking, 86% corn, it could kind of be something off-putting, because Brandon and I think, as we go along, we'll enjoy a lot of your stuff just because of the nature of you being a high rye guy. We're high rye guys and rye lovers. So, but this isn't one that even as me that loves rye, you would have fooled me being 86% corn. I don't think I'd have thought it was as corn heavy as it was.
No, it's funny. I've got to throw myself on my sword here. I have worked out since I've been doing this for the last few years that I actually don't much like corn heavy whiskey. And it was too late by the time I'd made this. I'd already made it. So I was pleasantly surprised, like you, Jonathan, that of what comes out of this. It's not like 86 is a lot of corn.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it just worked. We were just lucky it worked. It shows when you don't know what you're doing, things can work. That's what it boils down to. Because you don't know what mistakes you're going to make, and people say, "Oh, you can't do that," and you're like, "Well, why not?"
Yeah.
And so you do it, and look, I got to tell you, for all the ones that work, there's another one that hasn't. So I wish I was batting 100, but I'm not.
Yeah. Happy accident. That's awesome.
Yep. Well, literally, when we go through these bourbons and whiskies tonight, they are peppered with happy accidents, and largely because when we started this, I had no clue what I was doing, zero clue. I was Googling stuff. So.
Well, hopefully we'll get a little bit of insight into how you came into all this. But as I said beforehand, I hear an accent there, Greg, but I don't feel like it's native to Kentucky. Australia guy that ended up in Kentucky, is that right?
No, it's very southern Kentucky. It's about as south as you can get. It's.
Have you been to West Virginia?
Oh, it's not quite across the border.
Yeah.
It was this side. Trust me, it was this side. But no, Australian. I actually came to the US in, I guess it would have been, this dates me, 2002. For the invasion of Afghanistan, I was an Australian military attaché to the U.S. Defense Department, to the Pentagon, for the invasion of Afghanistan. I was here for a couple of years. During that time, deployed a few times and stuff, and just fell in love with the U.S. and the folks here, and married my long-suffering wife, Katie, 21 years ago last week. So,
nice. Congrats!
Yes,
happy anniversary.
Yeah, I'll have to pass that on. Sometimes I'm sure she's like, "Oh my God, she could have murdered somebody and been out of prison by now."
That's fair.
Yeah, and then I was recruited into the U.S. Navy, and I did that both as a active duty officer and a reservist for another 11 or 12 years, and I officially retired, I think, at the end of 2016.
So you served in both the U.S. Navy and the Royal Australian Navy. You just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, well, I retired once, and I started from the ground again. So it was funny. I retired as a lieutenant commander twice, which was pretty funny. So it was. We had a situation when we were in Afghanistan, and one of the guys I went through the Naval Academy with, I didn't know he was there. We were on a fob, in some godforsaken place, and walked in, and he was walking out. It was like the Bruce Springsteen song sort of deal, and he was a full commander by then. No, he wasn't. He was a lieutenant commander, I think. But anyhow, I was back to being a Navy lieutenant. He must have been a commander at that point. And anyhow, he just looked at me and he's like, "Hey, Kills, your career's really taken off." And I was like, "You bastard." So, so I went through the same ranks twice and retired at the same rank. So I had a stellar career.
So good, you did it twice.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, we don't hear stories like that often where, somebody from Australia served in the Navy there, then they come over here, and then they serve in the U.S. military. Right. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was the honor of a lifetime, but, at some point you get too old and slow and fat, and out you go. There's nothing left. So they put you out to pasture, and, when we finally settled in Kentucky, we didn't know anybody here, and but we just loved Kentucky. And, when you move to Kentucky, there's only really two things you can do. One's horses and one's bourbon. Well, I'm scared of horses, so bourbon it was. I really had no other choice. That's just how it worked.
Fair enough. I think Brandon's having a smidge of technical difficulty, so I might have to ask the next question. You talk about, you're scared of horses, so I'm guessing that meant you had to launch a bourbon company, so exactly. No peaceful retirement?
No, it was, what was I going to do? There was, this all started as a bit of a hobby, that's wrong, but a bit of a heavy hobby, if you like, and it just took on a life of its own, and, all of a sudden we have our own standalone distillery, and we're just down the road from Wild Turkey, and we know all the guys at Wild Turkey and Four Roses and, New Riff, and all of a sudden we have distillery, which kind of just sprung up out of nowhere. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's just wonderful. We just love it.
So I'm assuming you never imagined yourself living, growing up from Australia, someday moving to Kentucky and start making the native juice, if you will.
Yeah, America's native spirit. No, absolutely not. Back in Australia, bourbon's not really a thing, right? So, you can get Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Wild Turkey. That's kind of about it. But you go into Liquor Barn here, and it's a whole corridor of bourbon. In Australia, you go into the equivalent, Bottle Land or whatever it's called, and it's all gin. So that goes back to British times and blah blah blah. I love gin, by the way, but it's just not a brown spirits and it's not really a liquor country by and large. It's we drink beer and wine, and
beer and wine.
Yeah, and the liquor that has been drunk in Australia primarily has been RTDs in Australia have been huge for 20 plus years. It's only just starting to tick over here. But that's how, certainly, when I was of drinking age, of course, but growing up in Australia, it was, your Jack and Coke in a can, or your Jim Beam and Cola in a can, and that's what you drank. And geez, there's a lot of sugar in those cans, I can tell you.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah. Yeah. So is it when you, I guess, came over to the States, you really just kind of found your love of bourbon, or is it just something you just fell into later? Yeah. Yeah,
I think someone asked me this question just a few days ago, and no one had asked me before, and it was, when did you first really find bourbon or become, really interested in bourbon? And it's quite, it was an easy response, is that I was living on Capitol Hill, and I was working in the U.S. Congress, and had a few buddies, and we came around, and I lived on Capitol Hill at the time, and I was about the only one that had an outdoor, fire pit and stuff. So everyone had come over, and then one of these days, and DC is just awful. It's humid and it's disgusting. Anyhow, but for many reasons, but including the weather. So we. Mike, his name's Mike Ahern, came over, and he had a bottle of Buffalo Trace. And this is, 20 years ago. Yeah, it must be nearly 20 years ago. No one had ever heard of it before. And we sat around and drank this, I think it was a handle of Buffalo Trace. And there was 8 of us who drank it all and, whatever. And we liked it so much, I wrote to Buffalo Trace. I looked it up, wrote to them, and said, "This is great. We'd love to be able to get this in Kentucky." No one had ever heard of it before. Anyhow, so Buffalo Trace, of course, didn't respond. But, that got me sort of on the road, to learning a lot more about bourbon and appreciating whiskey. And, I sort of, Buffalo Trace were like a smack dealer. They just gave me a little taste, and, I was hooked.
That's awesome.
I don't think you're the only one.
Yeah, right.
No. Well, that'll lead us right into the next one. So let's go with the next pour. What do we got? What's up next?
What have you got in front of you? You've got the one cask bourbon, purple label. What bottle do you guys have? What cask number is it?
It's so the single barrel 4-year cask is it's number 1 cask.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's good. They must have stolen that off my shelf. Oh no, it's B2. See the bottom row?
Oh, okay. A2 barrel. It's A2 barrel. Yeah.
Yeah, they did steal that off my shelf. I just think this is a great whiskey, great bourbon. We have a thing at Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company that we don't ever bottle bourbon or whiskey, for that matter, rye whiskey, based on an age statement or how old it is or how young it is or if it's 6 years old or 4 years old or whatever. We just put it in the bottle when it's ready. So you will see stuff if you go into, a liquor store, and you might see 3 different expressions of our one cask bourbon with the purple label there. And one will be 4 years old, one might be 5 years old, and one could be 8 years old. And it's just, and I'd put any of them up against each other because we put them in the bottle and we thought they were spot on. And, the beauty of that is, I've got some 4-year-old, actually they're all 5-year-olds now, but 5-year-olds sitting in our warehouse that are better than the 8.5 and 9-year-olds I've got sitting in the warehouse. And I don't, people get all wound around the axle about age statements on bourbon. And sure, there's an upside to, keeping on wood longer, but it's not the be-all. Age isn't the be-all and end-all of the product. And, I've had some remarkably good 4 or 5-year-olds, and I've had some really shit-house 10 and 12-year-olds. So, we're sort of now, just because our products or our stocks are getting a little bit older, I think the youngest thing we have in the market now is a 5. But you'll start seeing a lot more 8-year-olds coming out from us in our single barrels because they're, well, actually, I forgot we had a whole bunch of them. They were, that's another story.
Happy accident. Happy accident.
Yeah, no word of a lie. They just sort of turned up. I was like, what are these? And that's what they were. So you're going to start seeing some of those out in the wild in the next little bit. In fact, Liquor Barn just did a barrel pick with a couple of our 8.5-year-olds, which will be should be on their shelves in the next week or 2.
Wow, I'll be excited to find that one. So I'll definitely try that.
So this whiskey, the bourbon you're drinking right now, is, there's that bottle. There was a bottle called Cask 6, which was from our very first release, and there was a bottle called a Cask B3, which was out of our Bravo release. They are, not all single barrels are, created equal, as they say. There's always 1 or 2 in the. We release our barrels in batches of 10. So, or not batch, but 10 barrels. So we have the Alpha series, the Bravo series, Charlie series, all that sort of thing. So they're the 3 from each of the initial releases that really stood out, and the others were good, but those ones were just really good. And you never know until you start putting it in the bottle, So, we work on about, rough rule of thumb is about 50%. About half of our barrels will make it into single barrel. Maybe a bit less, but we're shooting about that level now.
Yeah, because this is a
so what do you
totally
think of that
different
one, you guys?
experience. Totally different than the breakfast bourbon.
Totally different.
Yep.
But in a very, very good way, though.
Yeah, that's our standard mash bill, which is a 70-21-9.
Mm-hmm.
We went with that because, it was a known quantity. I liked it. It was high rye, but not overwhelming. We played around with a couple of different mash bills, but that's kind of our sort of house. Yeah, that's our bread and butter. Yeah,
bread and butter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this is a flavor bomb. Honestly, to me, this is so good. Like,
I just realised I'm drinking out of a peerless cup. So shout out to Alan Waddell. Look out of the cup.
There you go.
Oh, Johnny Waddell, I'm sorry.
Free publicity.
Yep. There you go. Look at that. Jesus. I'm the worst marketing person ever.
Same. I'm the same way. No, this is really good. Like, I mean, you would never, like you said, age doesn't matter a whole lot because, like you said, we've all had really bad whiskeys that's been 12, 14, 15, whatever, and we've had really good ones. I mean, we've had really good ones that's 2 and 3, and but this is, I don't know, man. This is really good. It's
Yeah,
super.
because this one's just 4,
Yeah.
right? 4 years old. Is that right?
Yeah,
Single
Yep.
barrel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is punching above its weight limit for sure.
Oh, for sure. Because it's, I mean, it smells delicious, and it's just got so much flavor, so much character to it, so much complexity. But man,
So one thing, what proof is on this one? Is it 116?
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to be my next thing because to me, if you did a blind taste test, I would say this is closer to 105 to me. The way that it just so smooth, so flavorful. But and it's some people argue that that it's more, you get more flavor the higher the proof, but that's not the case all the time either.
No, I mean, one thing, guys, that and I tell everybody this, that we really strive to do is, one thing I really don't like very much is, I don't mind a bit of heat, in the mouth and the mouthfeel and all that stuff. I just loathe when it burns going down my esophagus. There's no reason to give me heartburn when I'm drinking it. So none of our single barrels will do that.
Yep.
We work toward that. Like, my family have been involved with the wine industry back in Australia for 3 generations kind of deal. And so if you put out wine that's loaded with nasty tannins and things like that, you're not going to last very long. And so, which is one of the reasons our bourbons all age in new French oak as opposed to American white oak. So I think nearly every wine in the world you have is new French oak, and there's a reason they use it. It's more expensive, but I think the product is pretty good. So
Yeah, it's worth it because you're right. There is no. That was what I was thinking about. For as flavorful as it is, there's no harshness on the backside. Like you explained it exactly what I was thinking. There's no, because we're, like I said, we're rye guys. We love the high rye, but you're not getting hit over the head with so much spice that it's a turnoff. This is all smooth and well done.
Oh, for sure.
thank you. And that's exactly what we try and do. If we crack a barrel, you pretty much know if it's going to be that burny barrel, and we just don't use it. It's just not our thing. Some people like that. I just don't. So, I think what it does too, and we hope it does, is, people look at a high proof, particularly when they come into our distillery here in Lawrenceburg, they look at it and go, oh my God, that's 116 proof. That's going to burn. And you're like, well, just give it a try, because actually we don't think it does. You'll get some flavor in your mouth, and it'll sparkle a bit and all that sort of thing. But it's not going to burn down when you drink it down. And we love it when people are like, oh. So that's what we strive for. Yeah, right.
You hit it, Mike, because that right there will surprise a lot of people. Because like you said, a lot of people see 116 and they get scared away from it, and it's surprising how much John and I see it like all the time with folks that we interview or even friends and family. They see 116 and they're like, I'm out. Like they might as well think it's moonshine or something. But this is really good. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And that's exactly what we're going for.
Well, and like I think you said earlier too, you're not just doing it to do it either. There's a point behind it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're putting effort in. It's just not, there are some people that only go for the high proofs, and regardless of if they're, tasty or not, this one is.
Right.
And you talk too about, doing some things by accident or just very straightforward. Is that the name of the company, Lawrenceburg Bourbon Co? Just, you went right for it. That's where you're at. You didn't put a whole, how did that work?
I can tell you, Jonathan, I came up with some of the stupidest names you've ever met. Like, think of some obnoxious bourbon company names that you've heard of. I'd knocked them all out of the park by on my little murder board. It was really quite awful, and my wife Katie had to be like, look, I don't think these are going to work. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, I had some terrible names. Anyhow, then we're just sitting there saying, well, what are we going to do? And I don't even know how it came up. We're in Lawrenceburg. We live in Lawrenceburg, not far from, just up the street from Four Roses Distillery here. And our distillery is right next door to Wild Turkey. And so we're in the middle of Lawrenceburg. And Katie was like, well, what about Lawrenceburg Distilling or Lawrenceburg Bourbon or something? And so I was like, well, we're not going to get that. Right. Because Lawrenceburg at the time, back in the, day, had like 42 distilleries or 30. I'm making that number up, but some crazy amount of distilleries. And so I was like, well, we're not going to get that, obviously. No one had ever used it. So you had the Rippies, the Van Winkles, all these people all lived around here. No one ever used Lawrenceburg in the name of a whiskey, ever. So we jumped on it. Yeah, we jumped on it, and we were the first people, and which was really cool. Then, this is just an aside, but the name of our company more broadly is Anderson County Distilling Company, ACDC. That's why we did it. Because we're in Anderson County here, right? So ACDC, I think that's pretty fun, being Australian and everything. Yeah. And so then we're talking to the people at, I don't know, a Rotary Club or something here. And one of them's like, oh, yeah, there used to be an Anderson County Distilling Company here. It's like, oh, turns out it was owned by the Rippey family, who have the Rippey Mansion just downtown here. And they were distilling under that name for a long time, and you'll never guess where they were. They were on Wild Turkey Hill. They sold it out to someone, and then JTS Brown bought it, and then JTS Brown sold it in 1952, and the name was given up, and it sat dormant for 70 years, and we got it. And it just, all of a sudden, here we are with Anderson County Distilling Company, like literally 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet from Wild Turkey Hill, where it all started back in the late 1800s. So I'm not a big one for all the sort of made up history things people associate with bourbon, but I just thought that was kind of neat because that was another one of those lucky accidents. We had no idea until someone told us. So. We should play off it more, I'm starting to think now. Everyone else does.
Well, and I love, that's awesome. Yeah, and I love your little slogan, too, Born to Fight. I don't know if you can pick it up here, but I take it that's a little ode to your roots?
It is. So that, the kangaroo boxing the guy is an old, it has its origins as it's a quite famous Australian military tattoo, and that guy has been variously in pointy helmets and all sorts of stuff. So we thought it was better to make him look like a hipster, so he didn't offend anyone if we start exporting. And we changed it around quite a lot. But one thing, and Born to Fight is part of that tattoo, and we just adopted that as our company slogan. And everyone's like, you can't say Born to Fight on a whiskey bottle. I'm like, hells yeah, you can. So,
yes, you can.
Yeah, that's it's on everything. We have a huge neon in our distillery in the tasting room, and it says Born to Fight. And it's everywhere. So we love it. We lean into those sort of World War One era images. People sort of say it's a bit, what's it called? Sailor Jerry-ish, that sort of, big lines and, minus the palm trees and the hula girls. But, kangaroos punching a German's always pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Absolutely.
That was the first thing I noticed on the box.
Oh, yeah, on the orange box.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I love it. I love the logo. I love that. That's cool.
Thanks.
All right.
Well, I'm glad you liked that. I'm glad you liked our single barrel bourbon. We're really proud of that. That actually month ago, we found out it was named Spirit of the Year, Whiskey of the Year. Got the chairman's commendation, scored 99 points, and won Best in Show at the Monterey International in California. It even got me Distiller of the Year, if you can believe that. And that was a 4-year-old, and it was up against stuff from all over the country. And it's and I know we're going to talk about it later, but it just won another really big award here in Kentucky, which we only found out about on Friday last week.
So, what about the? Tell us about the Ascot Awards.
What a segue!
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So we entered two. Entering these competitions is expensive, and we can't really afford to. Yeah, we can't really afford to do too many of them. But we went through and picked out, I think 4 or 5 that we thought were important and had credibility. And the Ascot Awards, Fred Minnick's brainchild, I think is one of those, and particularly here in Kentucky, it's very well regarded. And then we found out on Friday, just gone, we received the letter at about 5 o'clock, and I was having an absolutely shit day. And this email turns up with this attachment. I'm like, I'm just going to take a minute and go and see what this is. I opened it up, and it said, "Congratulations." And I'm reading, and it's like, your Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company one cask bourbon has won a platinum at this award. So that's the one you just tried with the purple label. I read a line further down, and it's Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company one cask rye, which is our high reeked expression, which you'll try next with the yellow label, won a double platinum, which means, I believe, every single person that judged it scored it over 95 points. So that's from the Ascot Awards, a double platinum for our high wheat rye or our one cask rye. My crappy day got particularly significantly better after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were gobsmacked.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, we set out this year with our new lead distiller, who's just joined us. One of our goals was to win a double gold at a prestigious or well-known event, judging, and then literally, he's been there 5 minutes, and we just rolled out literally he's been there a week, and we get the awesome. Platinum and the double platinum on a Friday afternoon. He's like, "This is great."
That's awesome.
I'm doing so good.
He's like, I'm killing this.
But and just if you don't care, because this is just for my knowledge and my intuition too. But tell the folks, you don't have to get into too much detail and the cost and all that stuff, but just kind of run down a little bit what it takes to enter something like into one of those competitions or those big, the Monterey and the Ascots and all that stuff.
San Francisco and all that.
Yeah.
Rule of thumb, you're looking at anywhere between $350 to $550 a bottle, and
really,
So for big companies and things, that's not a stretch. But for us, when we can't afford to repave our parking lot, it kind of is. So we have to be pretty judicious with it. They're certainly worth a while. I think they're some of these judging panels like they put together, that Fred put together, and it was funny. I had one guy in my distillery, and I won't say who it was, but he's a big bourbon guy, about a month ago, and we were just talking. He's like, "Oh, I'm one of the judges for the Ascot Awards." And I looked at him and I was like, "You better vote for my stuff or I'll be really pissed." And he's like, "It's blind." I was like, "I don't care." So I actually haven't told him yet that that we were awarded the platinum. So I'll have to reach out and thank him for his support.
That's awesome. No, that's cool. And that's interesting too, because I've always wondered, because a lot of people out there, they think, just like me, you enter something in a contest, and usually it's not that much, or there's not much goes into it. You just enter it in, and and if you win, you get the accolades and get the recognition, and that's it. But there's a lot more goes into it than that I know about.
And then there's the associated cost with shipping it, and and that's a whole thing in itself, is shipping liquor, particularly when you're sending it somewhere like Colorado, where we had to for the ACSA, where our high wheat rye won best in class, in the rye category, the American Craft Spirits Association. But shipping stuff to Colorado, it went down to the wire. I think our things got there the day before, and we'd been trying to ship it for 2 months. It's just a nightmare. But that's all that that's why we have a director of accountability and compliance. That was our first full-time hire. She came to us from Buffalo Trace, and I tell you what, I think she's worth her weight in gold. And but you need that. Yeah, you just need it.
You're exactly right.
It's not easy to ship stuff. And let's go to that third pour of that high wheat rye whiskey, yellow label. Let's talk a little bit about it. I'm not sure I've ever seen a high wheat rye whiskey before, so I'm excited.
I've never seen a high wheat rye whiskey.
So this was one of those things that, if I had have known any better, I probably wouldn't have done it. I'll never do it again.
And I'll save this for later.
we only made 30 barrels of it. I wish we had made 300 barrels of it, but Liquor Barn actually just did a barrel pick of that also, which will pop out in their stores. Our high wheat rye is only available in Kentucky.
Okay.
And we're it'll always be available at the distillery, but it probably won't be, given we only have the 30 barrels, it probably won't be widely available, but you will be able to get it at Liquor Barn because they've done that pick of it. But yeah, 65% rye, 35% wheat. It came in, is that barrel 1 or 3?
One.
Cask 1 or 3? Yeah.
Barrel 1, 121.6 proof.
Yeah, they're all over 120. Actually, we have one that's about 109 for some reason, but they're all over 120 or 119. That barrel 1, that's another one that would have stolen off my desk or off my cabinet. That is the actual whiskey that won the best in class at the ACSA Awards in Denver this year. That's the actual cask. So, we're really super proud of that whiskey. And as I say, I wish we had a lot more of it. But yeah.
Wow.
This is good.
Wow.
This is one that I'm like, I could see people, once they figure out what you got, that whenever you decide to drop it, they'll be waiting for it.
Yeah. God, that's good.
Thanks.
That's really good.
And that one doesn't burn either, right?
Mm-mm.
No, it does not. And that's what's crazy, because I was sitting there thinking that in my mind, that at 121.6 proof, there's hardly any burn. You get a little bit of the burn, the spiciness on the back end, but you don't get that like you talk about, like that just deep burn that just ruins your whole day.
You got to go get an antacid.
Yeah.
And as you go, you're like, oh,
yeah,
to get the antacid.
Yeah, and it's coming up the rest of the evening. That's just not. No, this is wow.
So it's probably what we're actually probably going to do with this, and this is, being little, we sort of pivot on a dime, as it were. But what we're probably going to do, because of the scarcity of this, is do it as barrel picks into some retailers, and we'll certainly do mum and pop retailers, that known for their bourbons and whiskies. So that's probably how this will get allocated out. And I hate that we're even saying allocated in the same sense as Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company, because I think that's so obnoxious, but whatever. We're just,
That's fair.
if we had more of it, I'd give it to everybody, because I just love that. I love that whiskey.
Well, so will there be more made? Like, are you able to put
Of
stuff?
this? No.
Never again?
Never. No. Nope.
So what? So I mean,
It was hard.
for me, and I'm like, I may have to make my case, to you to ask you to make more, but
No.
just why not?
It was hard to make.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't hard to make. It just gave me a heart attack. And this was one of those whiskies that at 6 years it was not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it ticked over at 7, and it just changed on a dime.
Yeah.
And that's why we didn't leave it go with tossing around, leaving it till 8. Some of these barrels will be 8 when they go. Actually, some of them will be 8 in August. Actually, most of them will be 8 in August. So, but they were ready to go at 7.5 years, and so we started putting in the bottle. And the other thing we do at Lawrenceburg is, we sort of what you'd call, if you were in the logistics industry, do just on time bottling. So when we get an order and someone wants, 50 cases of single barrel or of whatever, we bottle it and we send it out.
Yeah.
So it works for us. I don't like having stuff all sitting up there. But, we have a stock, obviously, but when a decent order comes in, there's not enough. We literally will bottle it. And so whenever someone gets one of these, if they see it in a store, it is a single barrel whiskey, obviously. So it's like a store pick. They're all. We haven't, touch wood. We barreled or bottled probably 10, 11 barrels now, and they've all been good. We'll get a bad one at some point, but we've just been really lucky with this.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of so hit or miss. It's sometimes it's a guessing game. With leaving how long you leave the juice in the barrel.
Yeah.
Do you think the flavor profile will change drastically from a 7 to 8?
It hasn't so far. The ones we've done, they haven't quite gone to 8 yet, but we've seen not very much. I mean, the change between 6 and 7 was discernible.
Yeah,
we haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah.
This time, one contributing factor potentially was that they were moved, to our facility where we are now.
Yeah.
That may have shaken something loose. I don't know. I'm not a chemist.
Yeah.
I just sort of make it and stick it in a bottle.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the French oak thing. I don't know why that has that effect, or if it even does.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't, but that's just where my head is about it. And so maybe that the motion and moving those barrels from down at White Dog or wherever they were up to our place now, affected them after they'd just been sitting there for so long. But I generally don't know.
Now, what is I was going to say, what's your approach to whiskey making? Have you made all of your own, or have you done a little bit of contract and sourcing? What's your approach there?
So we have pretty much been doing a bunch of couch surfing or distillery surfing to get whiskey in barrels. And what we prefer to do, and we haven't been able to do this all the time, is when a distillery might be closed over winter or closed for Christmas for a couple of months, we go in and if they'll allow us. We pay obviously to rent the space and the equipment, and then we'll just make our product in doing 2 shifts a day, just punching out barrels, and that's put us in good stead. But at the end of the day, if one of the reasons we talked about this right at the top was that our one cask bourbon is a pretty common mash bill. When we get to the point in say 2 years that we're running out of our own stuff at certain ages and things like that, we're going to have to supplement that with something because we can't not do it. So we're already talking with a couple of terrific craft distillers here in Kentucky that may have surplus or will start putting down some extra new fill for us that goes to our recipe and things like that. And it's not brain surgery. We're making whiskey.
Right.
So, I have absolutely zero problem. In fact, I applaud it with sourced whiskey and all that sort of stuff. And NDP, like at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't really care where it, who made it. And there's some NDPs that have produced some terrific product, whether it's just by picking the right stuff or blending it the right way, and they're fantastic. And so, for everyone that's like, oh well, if it's sourced, it's not real. It's like, no, don't be so stupid. We're so I guess the short answer is we will be a hybrid of sourced product we made, and then also some stuff we will contract distill because we don't have the capacity. If this keeps going like this, we simply won't have the capacity.
Right.
And
So
we're very upfront with that too.
And that's what me and John pride ourselves on that. We love that. We love that transparency on that. But before we move to our next pour, I do want you to tell the audience one more time, because this right here is not going to last long. So how many more barrels do we got of that again?
Oh yeah, there it is. John's got it up there right now. So it's our one cask rye. It's got a bright yellow label with green writing. You can't miss it. We probably got 20 barrels of it left, I guess. You'll always be able to get it to the distillery until it runs out. We have, in fact, we have 3 or 4 expressions on the floor at the moment. You can taste them all. They're all slightly different. And some people will swear on cask 1, some will love cask 3, some will love the next one. So Liquor Barn, our Brad and our friends at Liquor Barn took cask 2. That's the one you'll see on the shelves in the next couple of weeks. But again, they've got a couple of 100 bottles of it. And we're not sure if we're going to do another one there or not. But Brad asks, I guess I'm going to have to do it.
Brad is he's very influential.
And he's got a extraordinarily sound palate. It's
very much so.
I tell you, when you're sitting in our tasting room, he was going through these, and I was like, as my father would say, shitting bricks, and he's like all sort of engrossed in it, and then he pops up and he goes, "This one," puts it back on the bar, and I'm like, "Okay, you can have as many of those as you want." So I was pretty happy about that. But it's been great. Liquor Barn have been great for us. In fact, I've got tastings at Plaudit Place and Danville this weekend, I believe.
Okay.
So if you're out and about, we'll be there. And we'll have the high wheat rye with us. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to venture out and check you guys out.
Well, if you're like me, you never get to go out. You just stay home. Drink bourbon.
We stay busy.
Pet the dog.
Stay busy.
Yeah, 100%. So,
I can't believe that my wife dropped you samples that she took off my there.
I was getting ready to say, like, you have a strong military background, so just don't take it out on us. Like,
Well, I'd take it out on Katie, but she could kick it.
Well, then that's a whole different problem.
Actually, she could kick the three of our asses at the same time.
I don't want any part of that. Nope.
Nope.
I don't send that smoke my way.
Those samples were hand delivered by one of the founders to the house. So,
and I am
one benefit
thankful,
of you
and I
guys.
know Brandon is.
I am very thankful, and I'm just glad it's not an intern that sent these bottles. And
Yeah, they would have been in trouble.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
So
when I go in tomorrow, I'm going to be looking at my shelf and be like,
yeah, where'd all my bottles go?
yeah, they're just gone. Well, it's funny that cask 6, or you didn't try the cask 6, but that's the one that won the awards in Monterey. I'd squirreled away like 18 bottles of it up in the back.
Yeah.
And Katie found them, and she's like, "What's this?" I said,
"Of course she did.
These are just backups or whatever, you know." Mm-hmm. They were on the shelf, and that's why we had cask 6 for the last week. We sold the very last bottle of it on Saturday.
You're gonna have to find a new hiding spot.
Oh, dude, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it was right in the back. I don't know why.
You're going to have to make a hidden underground cellar or something.
It wouldn't work.
No.
It wouldn't work.
Well, with that, let's move to the next one.
Okay. So
what we got next?
This guy that you're going to try now, I think it's this is a sourced whiskey. It's our 10 by 10 rye. It is 100% rye. It is Alberta, Canada rye. It was, pardon me, made by a Kentucky distiller. The story behind this, though, is fantastic. It was on a ship going to Russia. The war started like an export. That's why it's 100% rye, which you don't see here. War starts, ship turns around, and it's sitting in, I think, Cincinnati port for 3 or 4 months. My buddy from the distillery is like, "Hey, this is a couple of years ago. You're starting up a distillery. Do you want some, rye?" I'm like, "No, I don't want your stupid Canadian rye." Anyhow, he brought it over, and he brought over the cigars and everything like that. And he had 3 or 4 bottles, and I'm like, "You're a son of a bitch. This is so good." And he goes, "I know." And so we literally took a lien on the farm to buy the whole lot, and that's what that is.
Wow.
You put that in an old fashioned, it is
Primo.
You can't beat it. Yeah.
So what we got?
I was gonna say you had to like it to mortgage the farm. I mean, like,
Literally, yeah. Again, it's like a Bruce Springsteen song.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'll tell you, first drink, I thought it was going to be, because I love Canadians. I did a lot of travel for work there. Don't get me wrong.
I was gonna say we're going up there in like a month, so let's not make any.
Yeah,
we are going up there in a month. So the first taste I got was that, you know how you get some really not well done corn whiskey and that has that grassy taste.
Yep.
That's kind of the first taste I got, and then all of a sudden it took a really, really big left turn, and then it went sweet, little spice, a little more sweet, and then it just finished out. So I think it's good.
I think it tastes like dirt, but in a good way. I just drink that, and
The second sip is better.
yeah, because it can be a bit of an assault. The first 100% rye is like 100% rye,
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It
But you
literally,
have to
to
be.
me, it tastes like a dirt or soil or barnyard floor, or, well, when it's at our distillery, it probably tastes like a circus floor. But it's I just think it's a remarkable, unique whiskey, and I love it's 122.5 or 122.3 proof, so it's pretty stout.
What is?
But it's still, I think, and I didn't make this on, we
Right.
just found it, but I think it's still fresh, and I just think it worked. And again, this is one of those things that we won't get again, because it won't happen again. And that's one of the things we try and do at Lawrenceburg, is have some, because we're little and we can, experiment a little bit. We like to put out some expressions that are a little bit different, like a high wheat rye and a 100% 10, and that's a 10 a small batch 10 barrel blend. My original intent with that whiskey was to do them as single barrels, but about 2 or 3 were just too spicy to use, and I got all like I don't know, pissed off again, and I just dumped them all 10 together. Didn't do anything like I should have, but I didn't. We dumped them all together, and it worked, thank God. But the first time we bought these, we had these up in Paris, Kentucky, for those that aren't in Kentucky. And we bought the first batch down, and I hadn't tried it out of the bottle yet. And we walk into, we used to have this little tasting room on Main Street in Lawrenceburg, and it was literally a tasting. It was one little bar where we could do tastings, and we'd be lucky to get 6 people in a day kind of deal. But it was fun. We had a good time. And just one day it happened to be really busy, and I walk in with the first case. It was hot outside, and I carried them in, and Emily's there, and she's like, "Oh my God, our new rye's here!" And I'm like, oh. And then everyone's like, "Oh, we've got to try it." I'm like, "I haven't tried it, so you're not trying it." And everyone's like, "Come on, come on." And I'm like, "Okay." So we crack
no
open the
pressure,
bottle.
no pressure at all on that.
I hadn't tried it. I'd only ever tried it out of the tank, and it changes a lot. And I was happy with it out of the tank, but I didn't know how it was going to be out of the bottle necessarily. And so they cracked it open. Everyone, it was very well received, and I went in the back and sort of had a quiet cry, I think. There was quite a lot of whiskey in there. So, but, I'm we make our old fashions at Lawrenceburg Bourbon with the 10 by 10 rye. We have this maple syrup which is made for us in Wisconsin, that's finished in our bourbon barrels. We send him the barrels. He puts he's a maple syrup maple farmer. He lets it sit for about 6 months, and then he sends us a bunch of maple syrup back, and then he uses the rest. And so what we do is we put like a bar spoon of this. The maple syrup is amazing. A bar spoon of maple syrup, and it's quite good because it's American maple syrup, not Canadian maple syrup. So you'll like that, Brandon. So we put that in there. It's from Wisconsin, and then we put the 10 by 10 rye in, a couple of ounces, and we use these bitters that come from Portland called Portland Bitters Project, and it's called super spicy bitters. And you just put a couple of drops, and literally nothing else.
Yep.
And a little, we use now like dehydrated orange slices. We throw one of those in.
Yep.
And a cherry, and it's the best Manhattan old fashioned you've ever. I love old fashions, and it's really good.
Same.
So I didn't come up with that either, but
no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my question is that do you guys bottle and sell that maple syrup?
we do. Well, we don't bottle it. It gets bottled for us by Stephen in Wisconsin.
Or do you sell it?
Yeah, we sell it. Yep. We almost sell more maple syrup than we do whiskey now.
Well, you've done sold me on the maple syrup because I'm definitely going to come up there and buy some. When John and I is going to come up, we're going to hang out. We're going to see you guys. But I would love to have some of that maple syrup.
Well, I'll get Katie to make some old fashions. She makes old fashions.
Listen, I am a junkie for old fashions. So, but you know, you talk about maple syrup. It's funny because, you know, folks in Kentucky, especially where I'm from Southeast Kentucky. A lot of folk. I would bet you my life. There's probably, I could count 5 people on my hand that I know that's probably had traditional organic maple syrup,
right?
You know, without all the preservatives, sugars, or whatever added to it, right? And the first time I had it, I was blown away. I was like, "This ain't maple syrup," but it's really good. And now we're on a bourbon podcast, and we're talking about maple syrup. That's what we do.
Full circle.
I mean, bourbon. Yeah, I mean, give me a break. They're the 2 greatest things.
Exactly, 100%. 100%. No, it's
well, we
awesome.
got to get you guys to come down and visit. I mean, you're 30 minutes away, for goodness sake.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm ready to go whenever John is.
Well, hey, I'm finally done with soccer and dance recitals for at least like 3 months, so I got weekends back.
So, where do you wear a tutu or leotard?
Sorry, my daughter's done with them. I'm just the supportive guy.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that part.
Yep, my bad. I just assume people know that. You know, the beard doesn't look good in the tutu. No.
You know, you just got
Quite
Crocodile Dundee, man.
Yeah, you did. Hate to say it. Yeah,
you did.
That's fair. It's
Sure
fair.
did.
But yeah, we'd love to have you down, and if any of the folks that are listening to or watching the podcast come down, you know, ask if we're there. Like, I'm there pretty much all the time. Katie's always there. We'd love to say hello to them. And if we've got something out the back that they might be interested to try, we'll be able to roll that out for them too. But yeah, just come on down. We love having people in. We're genuinely, literally right next door to Wild Turkey. We're about our drive. If you walked, but no one in Kentucky walks anywhere. But if you did walk, it would be because it says it on Google Maps. I've never walked, but it would be a 7-minute walk from our driveway to their driveway.
Oh,
so we're pretty close.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that is really nice.
I'm in.
I got to tell you guys, and you've probably heard this a million times, but the thing that I love about the bourbon industry, and like I'm obviously super new to it, but is that everybody is so helpful and nice and can't do enough for you. I mean, I could call, you know, one of the guys in the production at Wild Turkey if we broke something on our little still, and you know, we don't have a shelf full of replacement parts, you know.
Right.
But if I call those guys, or I call Four Roses, or I call Whiskey Thief, or whoever, they'll bend over backwards to help, and it's just amazes me. The big guys, the little guys, and it's funny how, you know, people do it for you, and you just start paying that forward, and it's the industry. I've never seen it in anything else, and it's just so great. That's why I love it so much. Everyone, like, you know, people come in, and there's another distillery we understand has just bought land, like literally just down the street from us, and you know, someone's in the other day, and they're like, I heard, you know, blah blah is opening a distillery down here, right, you know, down the road. Oh, that must be bad news. I was like, are you kidding? That's fantastic news. I would love there to be 4 distilleries up and down. Well, there will be, but I'd love there to be 4 distilleries next door, because then people can come and they don't have to drive anywhere, and it's Lawrenceburg's beautiful. The horses and you know, and it's the more the merrier, I think, and I think the industry by and large is like that, pretty much across the board. So Yeah, it's a great industry to be in. I get to meet folks from sort of all sides of it, like you guys, and the other distillers. I participate in the KDA, Kentucky Distillers Association Leadership Group, or young, I forget what it's called, but and I've just met some amazing people through that. And they're from HR, and they're from production, and they're from logistics or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic, So yeah. So that's why I'm saying, if any of your guys, any of your listeners, viewers want to come down and visit, just ask for us. If we're there, we'll pop out for a couple of minutes and say hello.
Yeah, and that's what for me is what's it's really cool because I'm Kentucky, born and raised, southeastern Kentucky area. And I grew up knowing all the big players, right? Wild Turkey, Buffalo Trace, Jim Beam, whatever it is.
Right.
But now that I've gotten older and I've gotten into this, I love seeing new branch outs, new players come into the game, no matter how big or small, right? Like you said, you guys have to budget for how much you send to a competition to send, to just to try to win an award to get recognized, because like you said, you can't afford to pave the driveway.
Right.
So that's what's cool. I mean, I know you guys are working toward that. I get it, and I hope somebody's out there listening that can just be like, "Hey, let's pave the driveway." But these guys, literally, because this right here is some of the best stuff I've had, and I'm not just. If anybody knows me and my reviews, I don't say that often. It's really good. It's really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's fantastic stuff. And as we wrap up, I guess for the last question, Brandon. But before I say that, Brandon, I always like to give you the chance to ask anything else before I ask the last question. You got any other questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Is anyone else in your family as good looking as you two?
No.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
That's it. Oh, I would. If anyone wants to go into their local liquor store and ask for Lawrenceburg Bourbon, a bunch have it, but a bunch don't because they don't know about it yet. And that would be, that is so helpful to a small distillery. And I'm not not just us, but Whiskey Thief and Glens Creek and whoever. It's a huge help because the people that retailers listen to are the people that are buying the product. They're not listening to me telling them my stuff's great, or my sales rep that's telling them my stuff's great, because they don't believe it, because they hear it 500 times a day.
100%.
But if punters are going in and asking for it, then they start to take notice, and that would be the most wonderful help to a little distiller, not just us, but any of the small craft distillers. It'd be it's just worth its weight in gold.
100%.
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, my last question to you, Greg, is what's next for you all? What's the ultimate goal? Is it just to make happy accidents and have fun and enjoy retirement? What's the ultimate goal here? What's the future look like?
Ooh.
Put you on the spot. We're going hard. We're going to go on a deep question here at the end.
It's like 60 minutes back when it was good.
Did Australia have a 60 minutes?
It still does. Yeah, it's had it for 30 years, 40 years. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah,
it used to be good
awesome.
as well. I guess the short answer to that is, we're sort of pretty fiercely independent as we are now, with our whole born to fight mantra. We employ we've only got a small team, but it's more than 50% veterans, and we don't wear that on our sleeve, and I don't begrudge people who do, but it's just not our thing. But we do that, and when we say veterans at Lawrenceburg, we mean anyone that serves. healthcare, nurses, cops, firefighters, EMTs, whatever it is. Bulk of our guys are military vets, like our new lead distiller is a Marine, and he came from, actually I can't say. And so,
we'll ask that after the show.
yeah, you can ask that after. But, I guess for us is we want to, we're going to, over the next 6 months, introduce some new products into the market. We'll, given the success of the breakfast bourbon, the orange label breakfast bourbon, we're going to introduce a small batch, higher proof version of that, which will be tentatively called the Boxer, and that will in relation to our Boxing Kangaroo, and we've got a few other things up our sleeve, but we're never say never, but right now we're just focused on just making the, and I know this sounds trite, but just making the best whiskey that we can. And, the big thing in our game is distribution and, finding good distributors in different states, and because every state's entirely different. That's going to be our focus, and over the next, now that we've got our production side up and going where we are in our new place, in the short term, next 12 months or so, we're really going to try and build on our distribution channels, grow name recognition, but we're going to try and do that organically by doing podcasts like this, by doing tastings, meeting, I think the one thing Lawrenceburg Bourbon has is we've got a story, for better or worse. And
100%.
People, a lot of people relate to the story. I mean, it's not easy, and but we love it, and we love the people that we meet, and we love how it works, and so, we just need to get the message out, and the more people that through things like Flight Night. I thought it said Fight Night, which would have been way cooler, but.
Whoa.
I tried to tell John.
I'm fragile. I'm fragile.
Listen, I tried to tell John that, but
I know. I mean, how great would Born to Fight and Fight Night be?
Exactly.
Look at a new sponsor, for God's sake.
Fragile.
Yeah. You are like a little precious flower, I can tell.
Yep.
So that's where we are, and it's baby steps for us. I mean, we're only, you're only as good as your last barrel for us, right? If we put out a crappy single barrel, people will be all over it, and rightly so. I mean, geez, it's not cheap, and people expect to get good product, and if we don't deliver that, it's not, unlike a big guy that can take a hit like that, we can't. So we just got to keep making good product, getting our name out there, and spreading the good word.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do our part, even if you call me a precious flower, because I ain't.
No, listen, he is a precious flower, but
Oh, the other part of the plan is to have a jet by this time next year. Private jet.
Well, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
That'd
like a
be
big
awesome.
one. We can just go wherever you want. We'll just fly around.
Can we? Just sign
cool
us
with
up. We'll go. If you want to invite us, we'll go.
Oh no, I'm only going to get it if you guys come.
There we go.
Well, I'm in. I don't know about precious flower, but I'm
first
in.
we got to make the 30-minute drive down and say hi.
First of all, I am changing John's name in my phone to Precious Flower.
Okay, I like it.
I love it.
I will never live that down.
No, well, you're not because this is live and it's rolling.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Well, on that
I
note,
love it.
cheers. Thank you, Greg. This has been a blast.
Cheers,
man.
Greg.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. My glass is empty, but whatever.
Oh, well, it's all right.
Cheers, fellas.
Appreciate
really
it.
appreciate
Yep.
it. See ya.
Thank you. Yep.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.